Hey guys, how are y'all doing today?
Hey, Tim.
Good to see you guys. What's a good word, Chris? You always got a good word for it.
Well, you know, Tim, I'm inspired when I see you on social media every day with the prayers and with the Bible verses, and so we're sitting here, you know, we've got some good food out in front of us here and some coffee, and we thought about talking about Joshua 24:15. And I know you know this, but I'm just going to share. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
We will serve the Lord.
And that is a good one. And you know, when I read down through that in that whole chapter, the thing that gets me is it seemed like that a lot of people was looking at other gods to pray to and to worship and all. And it just really boils down to where he says, you know, as far as me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
That's right, and that's what's so important now, because there's so many alternatives to family living, but it's so important that the house be rooted and grounded in God and His Word, because He gives us the best plan there is for us to live and make it to that place we're all striving to make it to.
Absolutely.
It really sets the agenda is what it does. It just says, here's the rules we're going by.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to have something set like that just says here's the way we play ball, basically. And you know, if you're rudderless in life, you're not going to get very far.
Exactly.
Your family's not going to stay together. Your life's not going to go anywhere because you're not going to be on a path. This sets the path for you, and it's a declarative statement. This is where we're going.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know what? I think if I were there, if I was a participant to this conversation or even listening to it, it seemed like in the middle when he come up with this statement here that he was really getting aggravated with the people there and saying, okay man, you got to make a decision. You're at the crossroads. It's time for you to decide who are you. And I don't care who you worship, but it's for me and my house. We'll serve the Lord.
Reminds me of when our children were small, when we lived back in Mississippi. Our morning prayer was the prayer of Jabez for our children. Oh, that you would bless me, enlarge my territory. And I'm paraphrasing, but we put a foundation, and I think of that so many times as for me and my house, and that means that we have to take ownership. And that was always a blessing. To our kids can to this day quote that by heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, in that context you give too, Tim, when you talk about you know, he's frustrated with other people, the other people around him who don't seem to know where they're going, and that can be frustrating for any of us, because
Exactly.
those of us who are on a path and we know what we're doing, when you see so much discord around you, it can almost lead you astray.
Makes you question.
It does. It does.
It makes you, okay, what happened? Did I miss something?
And so when you say this, when you repeat this verse, you're saying to yourself, I mean, that's an important part of it, but you're also telling the people around you, maybe you're going to be a leader as a result of that. Maybe you're saying, I'm doing this for myself, but perhaps I can lead you in the right direction too.
And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. And you know, back when I was younger, if somebody disagreed with my God and His foundation, it really made me mad, made me argumentative, and so forth. But I've learned, you know, we said a couple of weeks ago, or last week or whatever, be still, know that I am God.
No.
You know, that comes into play too, because right now, if somebody come up to me and said, hey, I'm an atheist, I don't believe like you believe, I'm still going to treat him with respect. I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hope, you know, the weather's fine, and, you know, all this stuff. Now, I may share a word with him to try to win him over, but, you know, you got to realize sometime that you're not going to win everybody over, and it's their decision. You know, I can't stand accountable for them.
Right.
But I can share some word with them, but if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work.
We'll be held accountable for those missed opportunities.
Absolutely.
Where, as you say, you shared a good word with them. Did I use my knowledge of what I have with Christ in the Bible to promote that and make it known to other people? Because it's so important that we share what God has given us, because it's for everybody. It wasn't for a select group of people. It's for whosoever will, and I'm thankful that I'm one of those whosoever wills. And speaking of that foundation, you know, it's like building a house. You've got to start with that foundation, because if not, the house is going to fall. The foundation will crack, and that is such an important part of our spiritual life and growing in God and His grace.
Right. This verse also makes me think of how people can be examples, and so there are lots of ways to get people to see doing things the right way. You can tell them to do the things the right way. You can make them do things the right way, or you can simply be an example in your own life and have other people see that you do things the right way, and that you are happy in that right way, and then maybe they'll see it too. In my day job, I've been a writer for over 20 years.
And a very good one.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. I try, when I write opinion pieces, to tell you what I think and maybe what you should think as a result of that. I don't do it though where I say, here's where you're wrong.
Exactly.
I just kind of very subtly say, just here's what I think is the right way, and then if you see it, then great. If not, I'm not going to beat you over the head with it.
Well, and you're exactly right there, because you never win over souls or anybody else creating opposition.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
That
when
is
you
so
when
true.
you strike up in the chord and you make opposition right off the bat, they're going to oppose you. But like you say, approach them like that. And you're talking about my prayers on Facebook every morning. What happened there? And I know we got a lot of North Carolina fans down there, and it was a guy named Leroy Shelton, and I didn't know him personally, and he worked with race cars. And his wife, he would put out the prayer list every morning. I'd read it and just enjoy the dickens out of it. And his wife emailed me one morning and said he was working on his race car and had passed away. So everybody in the group said, we need somebody to keep this thing going. And they all started pointing fingers at me, and I said, oh, no. But I did, and for 16 years now, I've been putting it on Facebook and social media every day. And I also do the brain dusters, which is kind of like what you think. It just makes people think. I don't say you, I say us or me, just to make you think. And one of the simplest ones were, a lot of people say, well, I'm a good person, certainly I'm not going to hell. Well, if you go back to Noah's day, there was about 7 billion, not million, 7 billion people on the face of the earth, and all but 8 perished. Certainly, there were some good people in that 7 billion that perished. But enough said on that. That's just what the brain dusters are about. But yeah, good conversation there about the Bible today.
Hey, I just picked up something here on the radio. Turn it up, get a little bit of good listen here.
First thing I remember.
Yep, the Merle Haggard. No voice like that. Anybody who's anybody in music would know that's Merle Haggard.
He has his own voice, and it's very distinct.
Yeah, and he cut some roads in country music that other people dared to cut, but he got it done.
And he got it authentic too. He had a hardscrabble upbringing that. In today's day and age, I think you have the new folks in country music. I don't know that they had quite the upbringing that people like Merle did. They have to almost create it.
Yeah.
But Merle lost his dad early in life, and that made it tough. He kind of rode the rails literally. I mean, he was hitchhiking and on trains and got in a little bit of trouble early on in life, but he learned, and he's an example of someone who can be he's real life redemption right there.
Well, and he's witness and testimony for people in a different way than what you and I can be for people.
Right.
In what he did, and talking about his mischief, a lot of people when a person like this goes out and gets into mischief, they're so easily to point the finger. But when you look, Merle's dad died early, so he never knew him, and the mom must have been a very respectable lady, because the first thing she did was took on a full-time job. Well, she was all the ways away from home, and Merle felt like that he had no parental guidance or nobody there at the house, and it made him bitter, and that's where all this stuff turned out.
You know how he got his first guitar, and it was a used one?
How's that?
His brother Lowell gave it to him at age 12, and he began to teach himself how to play the guitar. And I think that's where he went into himself, because of the grief of his father losing him at such an early age, that he had to have an outlet. And music, even though he made mistakes, he's human being just like we all are, but he come back, got things right, and became very successful, and lived 79, and it's just this year that he passed on his birthday.
On his birthday.
Yeah, I think I talked about how his songs are authentic because he really went through the troubles that a lot of today's current singers who have people writing songs for them, they didn't experience those troubles, and so maybe their songs don't feel as real as a result of that. I think there's a lot of soul. There's a lot of life lessons in his music, and you can hear it come out in his voice.
Yeah, you know, people talk about blues music, and you know, to a lot of people they say it's so sad, blues, but it's a way of life.
Yes.
It's a way of life. It's just like a book that depicts history. Well, Merle, in a country sense, done the same thing. I mean, he was very he let his political opinions out. He let his feelings out through his music, and he was just inspirational. When you listen, be still.
That's right.
We was talking about God saying, "Be still." A lot being said about being still. My mom always told me, "Keep your mouth shut and your ears open." You'd learn a whole lot more. So, yeah, when you listen to somebody like that in their music, it's just unbelievable. But one of the things that really I found very interesting is I don't know, I forgot where they moved from, but they moved to a city and didn't have any place to live, and a woman gave them a boxcar. And they went in there and remodeled the boxcar on the inside, and that's where Merle lived as a young kid.
Oklahoma is where they moved
sure
from.
was, Oklahoma.
And over to, was it Bakersville, California?
In Bakersville,
Okay, yeah. And how many of us would start out in a boxcar today?
I don't know.
You know, and but that's where we are in the world now. But we can learn a lot. I mean, he obviously just passed away this year, as you mentioned, but we can learn a lot from his music, and it speaks to us, and it speaks to us not of just of a different era. It speaks to us of our current era too. That you know, we have to appreciate what we got,
right?
Because you know, fortunately for us, what for the most part, people who are struggling now don't have to struggle that quite much, as people did back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so, but he can take us there and make us feel a little bit what that was like.
And you know, one of the ironic parts, right after Merle died, I called one of his best friends and was talking to him. And we talked a little bit. I more listened than I did talk. But he said the ironic thing, right to the day that Merle died, he had trouble believing that he was as famous as he was, and that he had trouble believing that he was such an inspiration, that people would really buy a ticket, or that people would really come out to see him, drive 100 miles to get a seat to see him. And he said to the day he died, Merle had trouble believing that.
And he didn't have to have another stage name or a show name. It was Merle from his beginning all the way through to the end.
Well, you know, I was always told if you're an entertainer and you're known by one name, just your first name, then you're a special entertainer. You know, you got Elvis, you had Prince, you got Merle, you got Winona.
Right.
You know, so you get into some of the Johns and Petes and whatever, it don't work like that.
I throw Loretta and Dolly in there. I guess,
there you go. Yeah. Dolly.
Can't leave Dolly out for sure.
Yeah, Dolly. She is something.
But that humility is something that speaks a lot too, and I think that's coming from his background again, where that little boy that lost his dad just can't believe that, you know, he came from where he came from a boxcar, to be where he was, and that makes you want to even be more of a fan of the man.
Absolutely. And you know, it just come to mind when he got in all that mischief. One of the worst things he did, and evidently pulled a little bit of time for it. But after he got it, Ronald Reagan was then governor of California, and come in and give him a full pardon, and I was real glad to see that. But it also said that his one of his cellmates and one of his best friends had planned a big breakout, and the other inmates had talked Merle into not doing it. So the other guy went out by himself, and I think he got killed in the breakout. And it said that's when Merle started turning his life around. He went and got a GED and stuff like that. So
that scared him straight.
Yeah.
You know, he had every excuse in the world to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
But he took the best that he could, and it put him into a road of success.
Well, you know, a lot of times when you start off in a bad spot, you've got everything to look forward to.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's the way he took it, and most people don't take it that way. I think I see what you're saying. I mean, most people who start off, you know, with the world aligned against them, they think they stay that way.
Yeah.
And it's easy to just give in, and Merle Haggard didn't give in, and that's why he's the inspiration. He didn't understand why he was the inspiration.
Yeah.
But that's why he's inspirational to us today, and will be as long as we hear his music, because he is a man who took nothing and made something out of it.
Absolutely.
He definitely has that genre of music that will always be, and nobody can ever deny it or take it away from the Merle Haggard world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to head up Malcolm's cabin, do a couple songs, the parrot crowd's waiting and getting antsy. But before we do, I'm going to tell you one thing. I think Merle Haggard's music will live on forever.
It will. It will.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you up at the cabin in just about 10 minutes. Come on up and be with us. Alrighty, welcome back to Malcolm's cabin up here. We're going to have a good time like we said we told you was going to do. And we told you that this is God and country music. First of all, we want to promote the good Lord above, but you know, it seems like good old country music has left us. So that's all I know how to write is true good old country music. And here's a song that I wrote about my grandparents, and the thing is with this song, it's true country, but the thing is with this song, they lived 52 years together, and of course they had their times like anybody else. But if you have true love, it will survive. And I wrote this song about my grandma and Granddaddy Spears, and it's called Fairy Tale Love.
Once upon a time there was a woman. Once upon a time there was a man. Once upon a time he took this lady and placed a golden ring upon her hand. He knew they'd live happily ever after as he picked her up and carried her away. And she knew she'd found her Prince Charming. They wrote a chapter in the storybook that day. And they made fairy tale love forever after. And they gave their hearts away to the ones they love. Fairy tales don't come true, but it did for these two, 'cause they believed in fairy tales. Fairy tales believed in love. Once upon a time there was a woman. Once upon a time there was a man. Age, aches, and pains had overcome them, but she still had a ring upon her hand. The years of marriage weren't always easy, but they still had a burning deep inside. But the one thing that never aged about them was the young love they still shared with their eyes. And for 52 years he loved her like no other. And for 52 years she raised his children and made his house a home. And they made fairy tale love forever after. And they gave their hearts away to the ones they loved. Fairy tales don't come true, but it
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, that's a song I wrote about my grandparents, and it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's just about as country can get. But going back a few years ago, and I think it's been buried now, but they had a big to-do about the state song for the state of Virginia and changing it, so they had some kind of contest. But you know, I've always been proud of Virginia anyway. Right here in Hermitage, we love the rolling fields, as you see on the opening of the show here. But I wrote a song pretty much about how I feel about Virginia and my love for Virginia. So if you'll listen closely, I'll do a song, and you remember this: you're always home in Virginia.
Green leaf blowing in the wind, a field of waving grass, skyscrapers in the Richmond sky, Lake Anna's filled with bass. From the field of Tazewell County, where a neighbor's always near, you might take yourself away, but your heart will stay right here. You're always home in Virginia, where mountains turn so blue with the golden sun. You're always home in Virginia, where nature has a way with things and life has just begun. Memorial, the wonders of Natural Bridge. Newport News is building ships for the great Atlantic edge. 3 ships on the banks of Jamestown to colonial Williamsburg, where "Give me liberty or give me death" was heard around the world. Always home in Virginia, turn so blue with the golden sun. You're always home in Virginia, where nature has a way with things and life has just begun.
Well, thank you, everybody. We've had a great time right here at Malcolm's Cabin tonight. There's been a great crowd, especially the rowdy bunch up on the hill there. So we thank you all for coming out. We're headed right back downtown Hermitage, to the general store. We'll see you. If y'all want to come by for a cup of coffee or something, come on down, because that's where we're going back to, the general store right here in Hermitage, Virginia. Thanks so much, and God bless. Wow, guys, another great show up at old Malcolm's old cabin up there. And like we say every time, I'm just so glad that the crowd is so responsive, because when you do something, I guess the reward you get more than anything is when somebody enjoys what you do, you know. So
and you do a show, you've played big venues. When you do a show in an intimate little place like that, you get to see the look on people's faces. I'm sure as a performer, that's fulfilling to you.
Well, the thing is, as a performer, if I look out there and somebody's not paying attention to what I'm doing, it really bothers me. But thank the Lord, for the most part, they pretty much pay attention to what I'm telling them. So yeah, that's a good feeling.
Nothing like that positive feedback that you get, because you leave feeling accomplished, or at least you got into somebody, and it wasn't just a blah performance and nobody will remember. At least it'll be something they'll remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I told somebody, we've got a famous artist here in the town that lives here. Matter of fact, she's right across the road here, P. Buckley Moss. And it's like I said, the biggest reward for her is not when she's painting something, but when somebody appreciates it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I am when I'm on stage. If I've written a song and they get a line or two out of it and really enjoy it and relate to it, it seems so good.
You can, and they get to feel it too. That's the music. I mean, for me, I'm a writer. People read things and hopefully they learn things from them. But music, they can hear it and feel it, and it just goes through their veins, and that's the neat thing to me about it.
And you know, the odd part to me, and I don't think anybody can answer it, and even the Bible talks about the power of music, but you know, you can tell a story, and people will probably listen and get the gist of it, but if you've got the right mood set, the right tone set, the right music, the right notation, and you sing it to them, it does something to them. I have no idea.
And it sticks with you longer too, I think. I mean, it's something that you can put in the memory bank and pull back out later, because it's catchy. It sticks with a tune, and you guys both playing music have that advantage over me, the writer. So I'm a little jealous in that respect, but I do admire it.
Well, you know, like David in the Old Testament, he was called upon when kings and priests and stuff would feel irritated or something, he would come in and do music. Music was soothing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Well, Chris Graham, Lamar Harrison, one more good show, and we hope y'all liked it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll invite you to keep the coffee hot till we see you the next time. But right now, we're going to shut the door, close the curtains, lock the door, and we're going home. Thank you for watching God and Country Music, and may God bless you.